The air is still, like the world has paused its breathing. You can almost hear the silence thinking. In this suspended place between centuries, a light shimmers, neither ancient nor modern, simply aware. There, two figures appear, one in a long robe, barefoot, eyes sharp like a blade that cuts through illusion. The other, calm as sunrise, with a smile that feels like home. Socrates and Eckhart Tolle, standing across from each other in a space that belongs to no time, no geography, only to consciousness itself. Socrates looks around as if examining the unseen architecture of reality. His tone is half wonder, half analysis. Curious, he says. Even here, beyond the senses, I find myself asking questions. Tell me, are we truly meeting? Or is this a dream of awareness reflecting upon itself? Eckhart's gaze is soft, steady. Dreams are part of awareness too, he replies. The question itself is born from the same silence that holds the answer. Socrates tilts his head. So you claim there is an answer? For all my years, I have only found better questions. There is a difference, says Tolle, between seeking truth and being it. The mind looks for truth as if it were elsewhere. But awareness, pure awareness, simply rests in the knowing that there was never separation. Socrates chuckles lightly. Ah, so you dissolve the questioner himself. How very inconvenient for philosophy. Not inconvenient, Eckhart says with a faint smile. Liberating. For a moment, neither speaks. The silence between them thickens, luminous. The observer in you, yes you, the listener, can feel something rearranging inside. As if your own thoughts are being seen by a presence that doesn't think at all. Socrates crosses his arms, studying Eckhart. In Athens, I told them, the unexamined. Life is not worth living. I devoted my breath to inquiry, to dissecting ideas, stripping belief from truth. But you, he pauses, you seem to live without needing to ask. Eckhart nods gently. Because I no longer confuse thought with life. To examine is beautiful, but to be present is to know without thought. When you look deeply enough into yourself, you find not the answer, but the disappearance of the one who asks. The philosopher smiles, amused. So you propose annihilation as wisdom? Not annihilation, Tolle answers, but awakening. What dies is only illusion, the false identity built from thought, time, and story. What remains is what you've always been. Socrates steps closer, curiosity glowing. And what is that then? The soul? The consciousness in which even the idea of a soul arises, Eckhart replies. A quiet shiver runs through the space. The marble of old Athens merges with the clean stillness of a modern retreat. Time collapses into one presence. Socrates takes a long breath, like someone tasting infinity for the first time. You speak as though awareness were the true self, not the thinker. It is, says Tolle. The thinker is the echo. Awareness is the song. The philosopher smiles, eyes bright. I see now why men listen to you, Eckhart. You remind them of what they forgot to notice, that existence itself is already the proof. And you, says Tolle, remind the world that awareness without reflection becomes stagnation. It needs questioning to awaken fully. The silence now becomes alive. Not emptiness, but fullness. You feel your heartbeat sinking to something ancient and new at once. Socrates looks down at his hands as though discovering them for the first time. If I were to speak to my students now, I would tell them that wisdom is not found in answers, but in stillness. That the greatest teacher is not the word, but the awareness listening beneath it. Eckhart smiles softly. And I would tell mine that presence without curiosity becomes passivity. The universe delights in exploring itself through thought. The key is not to get lost in the thought, but to see it as a ripple on the surface of the still lake. Socrates closes his eyes, nodding slowly. A lake of being, he murmurs. Then perhaps self-knowledge and presence are not opposites after all, but reflections of one truth seen from two shores. Tolle's voice is warm now, almost tender. Exactly. You sought to know yourself. I invite people to be themselves. Different language, same awakening. The philosopher laughs, a sound that feels like wind on stone. Then the oracles were right. Truth always wears many faces. As their laughter fades, a golden hush envelops the space. You can feel it, not outside you, but within. Their words are no longer words. Their frequencies resonating with something ancient inside your chest. Socrates turns his gaze toward you, as though piercing the veil between their world and yours. Tell me, listener, he says gently. When was the last time you questioned your own thoughts? When was the last time you stood naked before the mirror of your mind and asked, who is thinking me? You try to answer, but the question dissolves the moment it forms. Eckhart's eyes find you too. Don't rush to answer, he says softly. Just feel the space where the question used to be. That space is the awareness we speak of. That's who you truly are. The moment stretches, infinite yet fragile. The two figures fade into light, but the silence they leave behind stays. It fills the room you're in right now. It fills you. Socrates' voice echoes one last time, almost a whisper. To know thyself is to meet eternity. And Eckhart's follows, like a breath after a heartbeat. To be here, fully here, is eternity itself. Then there's nothing but presence. No time, no story, just awareness, vast, bright, unending. And in that field of silence, something inside you understands. The age of consciousness isn't coming. It has already begun, in this very moment, in you. The silence after the encounter lingers like perfume. Invisible, but undeniable. You can almost sense the echo of their voices vibrating inside the cells of your being. Something subtle has shifted. You're no longer just listening, you're remembering. It's as if the dialogue between Socrates and Tolle wasn't merely a conversation between two men, but between two dimensions of yourself. One seeking through thought, the other resting in presence. One carving meaning with the chisel of logic, the other dissolving the stone entirely to reveal light. For a long time, humanity believed wisdom was something external, a treasure hidden in sacred texts, libraries and temples. But now, in this age of consciousness, we begin to see that the true temple is internal. The sacred text is written in the pulse of awareness itself. The philosopher and the mystic represent two halves of a single whole, the mind and the now. When they finally meet, the human being evolves. You can feel it, can't you? That quiet revolution that doesn't start in systems or politics, but in perception. The moment someone chooses to see, the world rearranges. It's not magic, it's consciousness adjusting to the one who has awakened within it. Socrates once asked his students to question everything. His legacy was not in answers, but in the courage to look beneath illusion. Tolle's teaching mirrors that courage in another way, to stop looking altogether and simply be. The paradox is perfect. One opens the door, the other invites you to step through. The new human is the synthesis of both, the one who questions until questioning itself dissolves, the one who learns to use thought without being used by it. Imagine walking through your day that way, no longer a prisoner of mental noise, but an observer of it. You wake, and instead of drowning in the tide of shoulds and what ifs, you pause. You breathe. You remember the still lake. That pause, so small, so often ignored, is the birthplace of awareness. In that instant, you step out of time. You reclaim authorship of your inner world. We were trained to believe that control means domination, to subdue emotion, to fight distraction, to discipline thought. But real mastery isn't about suppression, it's about intimacy. To look directly at your emotions without judgment, to see thought as a movement, not an identity. That's freedom. Socrates used to say that wisdom begins in wonder, and maybe this is the modern wonder. That consciousness, this invisible awareness witnessing you read these words right now, is both ancient and newborn. It has no age, no boundary, no opposite. Tolle would call this the power of now. But perhaps in this new age, we could call it the power of knowing yourself through being. In this consciousness, life stops being something that happens to you. It becomes something that unfolds through you. Every experience, joy, pain, loss, love, turns into an instrument tuning you closer to truth. You stop running from what hurts and start listening to what it teaches. Because awakening isn't the absence of struggle, it's the awareness that you are not the struggle. You are the sky, the storm passes through. The age we are entering is not defined by technology, progress or data, those are just tools. The true shift is invisible, vibrational. It's the recognition that awareness is the only constant, and that peace is not something to reach, but to remember. Imagine Socrates today, in a world of noise and endless information. Would he still ask, what is truth? Or would he, after meeting Tolle, ask instead, who is the one perceiving all this? And imagine Tolle, sitting in the marketplace of Athens, surrounded by chaos and argument. He would close his eyes, smile, and say softly, all this is the dance of form. Beneath it, the stillness remains untouched. Their union is the map for the next stage of humanity. Mind awakened by presence, presence expanded by understanding. This is what the ancients hinted at, and the mystics lived for. The marriage of clarity and calm, reason and silence, knowing and being. It's what the prophets called enlightenment, the poets called love, and the scientists now call coherence. It's the same pulse, the same energy, dressed in different languages. And maybe this is what the universe was waiting for. Not more information, but integration. A species capable of thinking deeply, feeling fully, and yet not losing itself in either. The new era is not coming from the stars. It's rising inside of you. Every moment you choose awareness over reaction, You become a cell of this awakening organism called humanity. Every time you listen without needing to reply, love without needing to possess, act without needing to prove, you shift the collective field. That's what consciousness evolution looks like. Not fireworks, not miracles, just awareness, steady, present, luminous, spreading like dawn. And as the scene fades, Socrates and Tolle walk together toward the horizon that isn't really there. The philosopher speaks quietly, as if thinking aloud. Perhaps all I've ever sought was what you call presence. Tolle smiles, eyes on the invisible light ahead. And all I ever taught was what you lived, the art of knowing thyself. They keep walking, and the sound of their steps becomes the sound of your breath. Because the age of consciousness isn't a time in history, it's the moment you realize that eternity is not a destination, it's this heartbeat. Right now, if you've come this far, something inside you is already shifting. You can feel it, can't you? That subtle trembling behind your thoughts, like the hush before dawn when the world is still deciding to wake. It's not coincidence, it's remembrance. You didn't stumble upon this message by accident. The same current that brought Socrates and Tolle together now brings you here, to this exact second, in this precise vibration, to hear what you've secretly known all along. Consciousness is not somewhere else. It's you looking back at yourself through time. You are the meeting point of past and future, the bridge between the mind that questions and the soul that simply is. The age of consciousness doesn't arrive with thunder. It arrives with awareness, and it's already happening quietly inside your chest. Every time you stop chasing the next thing and just breathe, it expands. Every time you forgive instead of fight, it grows. Every time you listen to someone, truly listen, without preparing your reply, it strengthens. That's how humanity awakens, not in mass revolutions, but in the microscopic acts of awareness that ripple through everything. We were taught that greatness means loudness, that power means control, that knowledge means accumulation, but real greatness is silent and power is presence. And knowledge, the kind that saves you, is not stored in books. It lives in being fully here. So take a breath, feel the ground beneath your feet. The same earth that carried Socrates through the agora now carries you through your day. The same stillness that Tolle speaks of surrounds you right now. Patient, infinite, waiting for recognition. The world is loud, algorithms scream, time runs fast, but inside this noise you can always choose the still point, the eye of the hurricane, where your soul remembers what it's doing here. When you live from that space, everything changes. You stop reacting and start creating. You stop surviving and start existing. You stop fearing time because you realize eternity is now. This is what the great teachers always meant, but never could fully explain. Because awareness can't be taught, it can only be felt. You can't read your way into consciousness. You can only wake into it. So ask yourself right now, before this video ends, before the next thought, the next scroll, the next distraction, who is the one watching? The answer will not come in words. It will come in silence, and that silence is you. If you can stay there for even a moment, you've already stepped into the new era, because presence is contagious. One awakened being silently raises the vibration of thousands. That's how the shift spreads. Not through force, but through frequency. So be the frequency, be the field. Be the one who lives from consciousness, not confusion. Be the living proof that peace is possible in the middle of chaos. Because when you choose awareness over noise, love over reaction, stillness over speed, you become the age of consciousness itself. Maybe that's the true legacy of both Socrates and Tolle. Not that they were teachers, but reminders that the divine doesn't shout, it whispers. And you only hear it when you're still enough to listen. And as you listen now, the field around you responds. Your breath slows, your mind softens, your heart remembers. You are not separate from truth. You are its echo. You are not seeking God. You are the awareness through which God seeks. You are not waiting for the new world. You are the light that builds it. Let that awareness spread through your life. Let it guide your choices, your words, your touch. Let it illuminate the simple miracle of being here, right now, alive. Because this isn't the end of the video. It's the beginning of your presence. If this message resonated with you, share it. Not for numbers, not for noise, but to remind others that awakening is not a privilege. It's our nature. Together, we're not changing the world. We're remembering it. One breath at a time, one heartbeat at a time, one moment of consciousness at a time. The age of consciousness has already begun, and it begins again every time you open your eyes and see. Subscribe, stay close, and keep walking with us. This is Human Wave, where awakened minds rise into a life of wholeness and fulfillment.